Jungle.
Welcome in, one and all. Welcome to Wrestling with My Thoughts, presented by the Raw Sports Network. I'm your host, Jade Lowe, also known as TikTok's Infamous Opinionist. If you haven't yet, head to TikTok at Infamous Opinionist. Give me a follow. Daily wrestling content over on TikTok. First of all, quick tech check, because again, lately, StreamYard's been giving me a lot of issues. So those that are already watching, Gavin, Ryan, hello, how you guys doing? Give me a thumbs up in chat if you guys can hear me. I just want to make absolutely certain there's no issues there. Again, give me a thumbs up in chat if you can hear me. Let me make sure we're good to go before we take off. All right, there's some thumbs up in chat. Looks like we're good to go, guys. So quick reminder, again, I am also live on TikTok. For those of you that are currently watching on TikTok, I am only going to be live for the next 10 minutes. If you would like to watch the entirety of my podcast today, make sure you head over to Facebook or YouTube. Give me a like or a subscription, or both if you're feeling generous. Once you're over there on Facebook or YouTube, you can watch the show in its entirety after I exit TikTok in the next 10 minutes. I just want everyone to be able to watch the entire show if that's what you want to do. As always, guys, as we go through the show, feel free to interact in the comments, respond to the things that I'm saying, post your questions. If I'm interested in answering those, or if they add to the conversation, I'll be putting those messages on screen and give you a shout out and answering your question live. Bobby on TikTok, please go to my TikTok bio in my link tree. You'll find the link for my Facebook, and you can head over there easily. Okay, instead of having to do a search. At the end of the show, at the end of the podcast, at the end of the podcast, I typically put the link to the broadcast room in chat. And then if you have a camera and a mic and you want to come on screen for just a minute and ask your question and have a brief conversation with me, I won't have you on here for very long, but if you want to be on the show for a couple of minutes and ask me a quick question and get my response live on video, I'd be happy to do that. Make sure that you share this with your buddies who you think might like wrestling. Right now, we've only got about 4 viewers on the show. We had upwards of 30 to 40 last week. I'd like to see if we can get this number to climb, which is kind of why I'm trying to stall real quick and get some more people in here. So, again, just make sure I'll talk about Matt Riddle in a minute, wrestling clips on TikTok. You're missing the point entirely. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. So, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. A lot happened. What I want to talk about first is I would like to talk about how we closed Friday Night Smackdown this past Friday. For those of you that haven't had a chance to watch it, spoiler alert, 3, 2, 1. Next week on SmackDown, in the main event, we are getting a TV Universal Championship match. It will be Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan. If Daniel Bryan wins, he will be the Universal Champion. If Roman Reigns wins, we're unsure of what the exact meaning behind the stipulation is, but what Roman Reigns said in his promo at the end of SmackDown is that if he wins, he doesn't want to see Daniel Bryan on SmackDown anymore. He doesn't want to see his face. He doesn't want him to be around. Wrestling clips, you are missing the point. You can argue all you want, but you're missing the point entirely. If you give me time, I'll get to it. But you are missing the point. So, yeah, Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns are having a match next week on SmackDown. Here's my thing. The booking up until this point, the way the wrestlers have been booked up until this point, the way the matches have gone up until this point, you'll see that there are certain words I'm not using here. Interviews, rumors, spoilers. I don't want to talk about that shit. The way the booking has gone up until this point, it would make the most sense for Daniel Bryan to become the Universal Champion next Friday on SmackDown. I think he should. And based on the booking, I believe that he will. Here's where I'm running into a wall with a lot of people on TikTok, mostly. I'm getting responses that say, yeah, but Daniel Bryan said in an interview he was going to be going part-time soon. Or I'm getting people in my comments saying, yeah, but you want to keep Roman Reigns looking strong. Nothing gets on my nerves more than people who want to tell me how to make predictions based on the fact that they have read rumors or read spoilers or listened to an interview. I'm going to be talking about these points in the frame of reference of this match between Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns. But you can copy and paste a lot of what I'm about to say to anybody, any wrestler, in any situation. Wrestling Clips, you just proved that you're missing the point by making that comment. Again, stop talking about it. I'll talk about it on the show in a minute, and I'll tell you why you're wrong. Daniel Bryan needs to win on Friday. Let me address the two big points that people want to argue with me about. Oh, but the interviews have said this, or that the rumor has said this, and I don't listen to wrestler interviews specifically because of this. Now, I watch stuff like Chris Jericho and Stone Cold because they're just going to talk about the past, and that's absolutely fine. And that was a fucking fantastic interview where they want to talk about Chris Jericho's best wrestling moments and talk about moments that they've had between each other and talk about experiences that they've had with Vince McMahon, stuff like that. All that is fine. I don't listen to interviews of wrestlers talking about the future because guess what? I don't want to know about the fucking future. Why would I watch wrestling week over week after week, day over day? Why would I invest myself in these stories if I wanted to know how they were going to turn out? Why would I watch a match where someone's contract or retirement is on the line if I already know how that match is going to go? I don't. So Ben in chat, and Ben, this is nothing against you, but Ben just asked me to define the word rumor. Everything that everyone says to me about an interview said this, a story said that, a website said this, a spoiler said that, it's a rumor to me because I'm not going to go substantiate those rumors because I don't want to fucking know. I'm not going to look for Daniel Bryan's interview to substantiate the claim that all of you are making that he's retiring because I don't want to fucking know. So as far as I am concerned, that's a rumor. It's a rumor because I'm not going to go substantiate it. Now, if you want to say I'm burying my head in the sand, then okay, fine. But my counterpoint would be, I don't understand why anybody watches wrestling when they go and look up what's going to happen. What is the fucking point? So you feel better about yourself? So you don't get pissed off later? Don't go and look this shit up, and I promise you wrestling will be a lot more enjoyable. Now, if you still want to tell me Daniel Bryan is not going to win this match because he has said that he wants to, as Heel Josh says here, he said he's not retiring. He said he's going to sign a deal with WWE where he can work other places. He said his career is winding down, which is fine, which is absolutely fine. If you want to come and tell me that his career is winding down, I can tell that without going and looking at a rumor or a spoiler. I can see the way Daniel is booked. I can see the way he wrestles. I can see how things are going and the way that winds are blowing on TV. And I can figure out that Daniel Bryan's career is winding down. That's fine. My point is that right now it's a rumor. But if you're going to tell me that you can guarantee me that Bryan's SmackDown career ends on Friday, that's a spoiler. You're spoiling it. You went and looked it up. That Daniel Bryan was going to lose. And now you're telling me that he's going to lose. So either you know exactly when he's going to be done with SmackDown or you don't. And if you do, then you went and looked it up. And it's a spoiler, in which case I don't want to know at all. Don't want to know. Here's the other point. Here's the other reason that people tell me that Daniel Bryan can't win. They tell me, you can't have Roman looking weak. can't have Roman Reigns look weak. You can't have him lose to Daniel Bryan because it's going to make him look weak. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you actually shitting me? Are you eating me for lunch, letting me digest, and shitting me out of your ass that you don't want Roman Reigns to look weak? Roman Reigns began his reign as Universal Champion on August 30th at WWE Payback, a match in which he defeated both The Fiend and Braun Strowman. He followed that up with 2 defenses against Jey Uso and a defense against Braun Strowman. He followed that up by defeating Kevin Owens 3 times. He followed that up by defeating Daniel Bryan twice and Edge once. You don't want Roman Reigns to look weak, right? And if you're telling me that the booking of Daniel Bryan winning would make Roman Reigns look weak, guess whose fucking fault that is? WWE's. Because how has Roman look at the fucking stipulations in which Roman has won all these matches? A no holds barred match against The Fiend and Braun Strowman, in which he was allowed to do whatever he wanted. A match against Jey Uso, which he won by stoppage, which was a great ending. No problem with that ending. He won by stoppage. I am absolutely fine with that. All right, let's see. Let me go to TikTok chat. Let's see. Shut up, you melt. You don't like hearing me cry. Guess what? Blocked. Who else? Who's got a problem? Nobody yet. If Roman Reigns looks weak because he lost to Daniel Bryan, then it's a problem with the booking. Otherwise, losing to Daniel Bryan does nothing to Roman Reigns. After the past 8 months that he's had, Roman Reigns loses no credibility by losing to Daniel Bryan. Especially when, as somebody said up here in the comments, who said that? Right here, as Ben said, Bryan could win it and then Roman could get it right back. Which, again, I would be perfectly fine with. Look, I am a mark for wrestling. I am of the opinion that everybody is a mark for wrestling. If you're not a mark, then why are you watching it? Being a mark is what makes it fun to watch, in my opinion. But in this particular situation, okay, shut up, you melt. You want to make another profile? That's okay. I can block this one too. I can block you as many times as I need to, guys. I'm not going to put up with fucking negativity in my chat. Leave me the fuck alone. I'm okay with conversation. Don't call me a crybaby. Don't resort to name calling. If you want to be a 3-year-old, I'll block you. I don't care how many profiles you make. I'm going to keep blocking you. In fact, it's been past 10 minutes, so I'm going to shut TikTok down anyway. If you guys want to watch the rest of the show, head to YouTube or Facebook. Some real assholes in TikTok comments today. You could have Daniel Bryan lose immediately, and I'd be fine with that. I'm not being a Daniel Bryan mark. If the booking for Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns up to this point hadn't been the way that it was, I wouldn't give a shit. Daniel Bryan could lose, and then when he loses, if he loses, he could go to Raw, NXT, whatever. That's fine. That's fine. And Heel Josh says if they have him lose and win it back right away, I'm going to be pissed. And that's fine to be pissed about that. Again, everyone can react to wrestling in whatever way they want to react to wrestling, right? Not everybody is happy about Roman Reigns' long reign. Most people are. Not everybody is. The fun part about wrestling is when things happen and everyone reacts differently, and then we get to have conversations based off of that. That is absolutely fine. Okay? If the booking for Daniel Bryan hadn't been this way up to this point, where he's lost to Roman Reigns twice, I wouldn't have a problem with it at all. And I know that Daniel Bryan could also lose this match and not take a hit in credibility. That's fine. If you want to make that point, that's absolutely fine. But again, Roman Reigns can lose this title and get it right back and look fine. So before we move on, guys, because I don't want there to be, negativity, or I don't want anyone to be pissed off at me. Heel Josh is here commenting. Me and Heel Josh have worked together. I like Heel Josh. We disagree on a few things, but I think we're still respectful with each other. Heel Josh and I disagree on a few things, but we can still talk wrestling and be marks together. And that's what wrestling rather is all about. When you can disagree and you can get pissed, but then you can still be civil enough to have conversations and talk about wrestling. So if you want to go look up rumors, that's your prerogative. If you want to go look up spoilers even, that's your prerogative. Neither of those are my prerogative, and I don't like it to be in my comments because I want to enjoy wrestling as a mark, the way that I believe wrestling was meant to be enjoyed. Other people, again, using Heel Josh as an example, can enjoy wrestling while still looking up the rumors and spoilers. To me, it's just really hard to enjoy. That's why I fell out of wrestling for several years back in the mid-2010s, is because I got so caught up in the internet. I got so caught up in spoiler sites and news reports and wrestler interviews and shit that I stopped enjoying it. So some people can enjoy it with rumors and spoilers. I can't. And that's my point. So I am predicting that Daniel Bryan will win. And I may be wrong. Who gives a fuck if I'm wrong? If I'm wrong, that's fine. We move on. I'll keep watching wrestling. Based on the booking, I think it makes the most sense for Daniel Bryan to win. So that's my prediction. I love all of you, except for the assholes I just blocked in TikTok a few minutes ago because people really wanted to be assholes today. So now let's talk about something else, and I'm kind of going off the cuff here. This was a subject that came up in TikTok chat just a minute ago. First of all, let's go ahead and look at the comments. I don't want y'all's questions to go unanswered. Let's look at the comments real quick and see if there's anything we can add to this. Heel Josh again says he disagrees. Wrestling is enjoyable if you actually take it as a rumor and not fact. Ben says, I just want Daniel versus The Miz. You know, we had Daniel versus The Miz a couple of years ago, right after Daniel's return, but I don't think that was capitalized on in the appropriate way, so I'd like to see that again as well. It isn't a spoiler if it's someone's opinion. Also true. But again, my counter to that would be, Josh, the comments on TikTok that I'm specifically addressing in my rant are the ones that begin with, I read an interview that said, or I read a story that said, or so-and-so is reporting that. Those are the comments that I'm talking about. Ryan says, I think Daniel is winning is a good thing for Roman, makes his character look better in a way. I think so as well. I think that it would make the character reflect on the way that they're doing things, especially if Jey Uso and Paul Heyman both try to get involved and Daniel Bryan wins anyway. I think that would add an extra layer to the Roman Reigns story, and then he starts thinking about the people that he has around him, and maybe we change that up a little bit. Let's see. Even John Cena said this Roman is his best character. It absolutely is. Don't disagree with that at all. This version of Roman Reigns is the best version of Roman Reigns. Seb, they've already done the story of Bryan making Roman tap out when he hadn't previously, so I think Roman losing to him could tie into that and make sense. Absolutely could. Again, it could add an extra story or an extra layer into this character, which I don't think is a bad thing at all. Let's see. See, this is an example of a spoiler or a rumor. Edge versus Roman is saved for SummerSlam. Like, if you want to tell me that's what my opinion is, that's fine. But when you say it like that, that makes it sound like you've gone and looked it up, and I don't want to know about that. Ryan says, can we just have Kevin Owens win the title again? I think Kevin's going to have to go to Raw if they really want him to be a champion. If they get pissed and WWE and Roman did their job, also true. Bryan wins and loses at a Backlash. We already said that. Thoughts on Lesnar versus Lashley, good or bad? I'm assuming you meant bad booking there, Dan. Listen, I can't say good or bad booking right now because I haven't seen how the booking plays out. The booking could be the best or it could be god-awful. WWE is more than capable of both, and we all know that. I'm not so much against Lashley versus Lesnar. It's just not my first pick. But again, I understand that the money is there. I know Lashley wants it. So if Lesnar's willing to put in the work and he doesn't phone that story in, because we have seen Lesnar do that before, a la Dean Ambrose in 2016, then I'd be fine with that match. Do I think Edge will eventually win the Universal Championship, Shamar? I do think eventually he will win it. I think the booking made the most sense for him to win it at Mania, but he didn't. So eventually I think he will. How would I book Lesnar versus Lashley? I think it's very simple how you book Lesnar versus Lashley. I think the most predictable way of doing it is the best way of doing it, where Lashley has a dominant championship defense against someone, Drew McIntyre, whoever, Matt Riddle, whoever. He gets on the mic and says that he's the biggest, the baddest, the strongest. There's nobody currently on the roster that could take him down. And in the middle of that rant, we get the man, and then Brock Lesnar comes down. And then for the next 3 weeks leading up to SummerSlam or whatever the pay-per-view is, Lesnar and Lashley just take turns beating the shit out of each other. I think you have Lesnar come out and beat the shit out of Lashley for the first 2 weeks. And just when you think Lashley is down in the dumps, Lashley locks in the Hurt Lock on Lesnar and makes him pass out. And then that's how you lead into SummerSlam or whatever pay-per-view it is. Amanda thinks Daniel Bryan will win and then face Cesaro. Listen, title or not, Daniel Bryan versus Cesaro is something that will take my money every single fucking time. So I'm there with you. How would I book AJ and Omos as tag champs? Get him on TV first. Let's start there. Do I like Kevin Owens working with Sami Zayn? Listen, Kevin and Sami, no matter what they do, it's going to be excellent. Even with the subpar WWE writing, as long as that writing ends with a Kevin versus Sami match, I'm going to be happy. It was a mistake letting Samoa Joe go in the long term, but in the short term, I don't think WWE had much of a choice. They didn't feel comfortable clearing Samoa Joe medically. They weren't going to put him on TV. Samoa Joe didn't want to announce anymore, so they kind of had to let him go. All right, let's move on. So now I want to talk about something that was happening in my TikTok chat. There's a guy that was in my chat, Wrestling Clips, and I don't know if he's live. Wrestling Clips, if you're here to speak up for yourself, feel free to say so in chat. Guy named or user named Wrestling Clips he's been a follower of mine for a long time, and for the most part, he's been, he and I have seen fairly eye to eye. He's been fairly respectful. In that TikTok chat just now, he was getting a little bit disrespectful. All I said was that I thought he was wrong and that I wanted to address it. And he wanted to do laugh emojis and he wanted to help this other guy make fun of me. Whatever. That's fine. Again, if you want to be 3, I'm not going to go down and be 3. I'm just going to talk about it like an adult. And what we were talking about is Matt Riddle. Matt Riddle was mentioned in the speaking out movement that happened over the past year. For those of you that don't know, the speaking out movement was a movement that happened on social media where females in the wrestling industry started speaking out on times that they were sexually harassed, sexually assaulted, so on and so forth. Matt Riddle was named in those speaking out movements, along with guys like Velveteen Dream and Joey Ryan and a number of other folks. Okay, and listen, not everyone was accused of the same crime. We get that. Everyone's case is different. The case with Matt Riddle, from what I have read on it, basically there was a woman in his life that accused Matt Riddle of sexual assault. And not only that, but also being unfaithful to his girlfriend, fiance, whatever the situation is there. Riddle has said that he admits to cheating on his girlfriend, fiance. But he says that everything that happened between him and this other woman was consensual. And that the other woman is now accusing him of rape, sexual assault as a form of revenge or what have you. Okay. As far as I am aware, and again, I haven't looked into this in a couple of weeks, but usually I see these stories come up pretty fast in the avenues that I follow online, and I haven't seen anything about it. If there's been an update that I don't know about and someone wants to put that link in chat for me to click on and learn more about it, I'm absolutely down for reading that and getting more up to date. The last update that I had was that Matt Riddle has declined or has refuted all of these accusations, except for the fact that he was unfaithful to his girlfriend or his fiance, and he's working that out with her. More power to him. I hope that their relationship is able to withstand it. Fact of the matter is, as far as I'm aware, even though he has said this didn't happen, The case and the investigation is still ongoing. Okay. Now, Matt Riddle has said that he is innocent. And in this country, our legal system says you are innocent until proven guilty. This is my position on it. Until I have a judge or an investigator bring forward either an innocent verdict or some kind of physical evidence that nothing ever happened, I am going to feel uncomfortable with Matt Riddle having success on WWE television. This has nothing to do with his talent. He is very, very supremely talented. He is very entertaining, even though he's playing a fucking pothead on TV right now, which is it's a whole nother conversation. He's very entertaining. He is a great professional wrestler. He was one of my favorites on NXT. I was so blown away that he was able to come into the world of WWE and be successful so quickly with the experience that he had. Eventually, I think if everything goes right in his personal and professional life, he will be a world champion in WWE at some point. I think they have to change his character a little bit before they do that. Sorry about that. I had a text message. This is just my own personal opinion. I feel uncomfortable with Matt Riddle finding high levels of success. Like his match with Randy Orton on Raw this past week. They had a great back and forth match. It ended in a roll up, which is whatever. But he got the win over Randy Orton. And it's like I have that moment right after the match ends. I have that moment of, oh, hey, that's awesome. Matt Riddle just got a win against Randy Orton. That's the biggest win of his career. And then it fades into, but there's also that thing going on. I hope Matt Riddle turns out to be innocent. For one, I don't want anyone who didn't do anything to be falsely accused. And for two, I'd like to think that this woman, as sick as she would be in the head to have made up all of this, I hope she didn't get sexually assaulted, right? That's just, I have a level of human decency. This situation would be better if Matt Riddle didn't sexually assault someone and someone else didn't get sexually assaulted. I don't want it to come out that Matt Riddle is guilty at all. I'm just saying there is a part of me personally, and this is the point that Wrestling Clips and TikTok didn't want to hear for some reason. I am just personally, I feel a little bit uncomfortable with Matt Riddle being on TV. I would feel much better about the situation if they would take him off until this whole thing is settled. And then once everything is settled, put him back on TV. Once we know the truth. Matt Riddle has presented his version of the truth, but there has been no proof either way. I would just like to get closure on this before we see Matt Riddle start climbing up the ladder of WWE. And that's all I was trying to say on TikTok earlier. So Wrestling Clips, if you're still watching, if you watch this on video on demand later on, that's all I was trying to say. That's all I was trying to say. And that's my stance on Matt Riddle. And that goes for everybody that was named in those allegations. Velveteen Dream, for instance, we haven't seen him on TV since those speaking. I think he made a return briefly, and then another allegation came out, and then he was taken off of TV. Now, I know he's struggling with injuries and all that, but I would much rather Velveteen Dream not be on TV right now. As much as I like the Velveteen Dream character, I would rather him not be on TV right now. And that's my only point about Matt Riddle. I love Matt Riddle as a character, as a wrestler. I would rather him not be on TV right now. That's my point. Respond in the comments if you'd like. Some comments I got since I went on that rant. Gavin Mesmer, I agree with you about WWE going back to PG-14. So Ryan and Gavin, I actually agree with that too. A lot of people think that we should go back to the Attitude. No, fuck the Attitude Era. Fuck the Attitude Era. There was very few good wrestling matches in the Attitude Era. The stories were very commonly more terrible than not. Raw didn't feel complete unless someone was busted wide open or unless there was a nip slip. Fuck the Attitude Era. But PG-14 from the Ruthless Aggression Era, I think the Ruthless Aggression Era was the sweet spot for professional wrestling, and I'd love to go back there. Few things I would leave out. Headshots I could do without. I don't want anyone having to worry about concussions and CTE. Do I have to bring up Chris Benoit? Don't bring headshots back. You don't have to bring blading back. I don't think there needs to be blood everywhere unless it's natural. Now, if the blood happens, acknowledge it, but don't bleed on purpose. In reference to the Matt Riddle conversation, Amanda says they still let Austin on TV after he beat his wife too. That's true. I would also point out that happened in a different time. It did happen in a different time. Ben says WWE is very, again, talking about Matt Riddle, very harsh when it comes to this. I'm surprised he's on TV before it settled. Me too. Do I think there will ever be AEW versus WWE? Anything is possible, Ryan. Anything is possible. I don't ever see it happening. I don't ever see that bridge being built. Don't I think AEW is trying to be Attitude Era? No, Dan, I don't. I don't. I mean, they're finding success for sure. You're right about that, but I don't think it's because they're going Attitude Era. The women's performers on that show are wrestlers. They're not tramps. They're not bikini models. They're not, out there wrestling in mud and pillows. The women's wrestlers are excellent wrestlers. Hikaru Shida, Thunder Rosa, Britt Baker, Red Velvet, all of them. Great wrestlers. There's blood every once in a while, but I think they do it in the right way. They do a headshot every once in a while. I would still prefer there not to be any headshots, but they do them every once in a while. But they don't get carried away. So, no, I don't think AEW is trying to be the Attitude Era. Nowhere near it. Riddle is near a big push. Should WWE not rush the process and try and buy the girl off? Yeah, maybe. Promoter of the Year, Tony Khan. Just wanted to come here to break the news that Punk versus Joe is in the works, and I couldn't have done it without the help of Uncle Dave. I know that's a joke, and it's really funny. That's really, really funny. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about Dynamite. Let's talk a little bit about Dynamite. Christian's match against Hobbs, Powerhouse Hobbs. Great match with Christian this week. And I think that's what we need to see with Christian. I don't think we need to rush him into the World Championship picture. I think he just needs to be having great matches. And I'm on record. I haven't talked about Christian on my podcast, but I have talked about it on Heel Josh's podcast before. Not a Normal Wrestling Fan, I think was the name of the show we did. It was the first episode of Not a Normal Wrestling Fan. Hobbs and Christian was great. I don't think Christian is capable of putting on consistently great matches. However, I will say that he seems to have improved since the last time that he was a full-time performer. The two matches that he's worked so far against Frankie Kazarian and Powerhouse Hobbs have been two of the best in-ring performances I've ever seen out of Christian. So I think he may have made some improvements, and he's going to make me eat my words. But in his initial WWS/WWE run, I didn't see a lot in Christian. I thought that most of his success was based around the fact that he was close to Edge. His solo career was nothing to write home about. He never had any great matches in WWE. He had a couple of good ones with Randy Orton, but nothing to. I think the two matches he's had in AEW have been better than any match that I can remember from WWE. Tony Khan says Hobbs needs to get lean. I don't think he needs to get lean, but I think he needs to harden up a little bit, if that makes any sense. I think that he needs to. What am I trying to say here? Listen, I know how it feels to be overweight, so I feel like I can speak to this a little bit. And while Hobbs does look like a powerhouse, it also feels like he's a little bit overweight. Like he needs to convert some of that fat into muscle. If he did that, he'd be one of the most impressive looking guys in AEW. I think he just needs to work on his physique a little bit. I don't think he needs to get lean, though. Which maybe that's what you were trying to say. Maybe our definitions of lean are just different. Will Sheamus retire before he attains the Grand Slam? Well, what's he missing for the Grand Slam, James? Has he ever been Intercontinental Champion? That's all he's missing, right? The Intercontinental Champion. I think he could get an Intercontinental Championship before the end of his career. Ben says Miro's promo was again great. 2 weeks of great build. Yeah, I think Miro is headed in the right direction. I was unsure about Miro. I was very, very unsure about Miro, especially when they took him out of one wedding storyline, brought him over to AEW, and what they do, they threw him right into another wedding storyline. I was very unsure about that. The storyline involving the best friends wasn't that great. The matches were good. The arcade street fight was good. I enjoyed the matches. I just didn't enjoy the storyline. He was a little bit rusty coming in. He hurt a couple of people coming in. He seems like he's gotten that under control. I just want Miro to be something bigger than he was in WWE. I was such a huge fan of Rusev when he started on the Rusev Day stuff. I was hopeful they would come over and maybe just do like Miro month or something, like as stupid as that would have been. I wanted the exact same character he was running when he was doing Rusev Day, just not Rusev. Tony Khan says, what are your predictions for Impact Rebellion tonight? You know what? I do need to talk about that. Let's go ahead and get that card pulled up. Let's get the card for Impact Rebellion pulled up. I need to move my mic a little. There we go. Impact Rebellion. So I know about the big match. We'll talk about that one last. I know what the big match is. As I pull that card up, Chris Hoover asked me, how do I feel about Matt Hardy on AEW? Matt Hardy initially was a little bit too much for me because I don't think he can wrestle that well anymore. I think he looks really stiff, and every time he wrestles, I'm worried that he's going to get hurt. I like the character. I like the Big Money Matt character. I like that he's in more of a managerial role now. So I'm feeling better about Matt Hardy now than I was in the beginning. I'll just say that. Let me see if I can pull this card up on my... Let me see if I can pull this card up on my main computer here and we can look at it together. Here we go. All right. I've never tried this before. Let's see if this works. There we go. All right. So let's have a look at the card together. Let's have a look at the card together and let's just make these predictions really quick. So we have a big tag team match. Chris Sabin, Eddie Edwards, James Storm, and Willie Matt versus Eric Young, Diener, Joe Deering, and Rhino. I'm going to take Sabin, Edwards, Storm, and Mac, the baby faces, for the win here. That's just kind of the way Impact books these big matches, if it's a big baby face team versus a big heel team. So I'm predicting, and here's the thing, guys, about Impact, and I've talked about this on the channel before and on my TikTok channel before. You always have to worry about Impact matches getting some sort of interference or disqualification from the outside. So there's an asterisk next to every single one of these matches, barring some kind of outside interference, because that could happen in any one of these matches. I'm going to make the unsafe assumption that there will be no interference in these matches, and that's how I'm going to make the prediction. So I'm going to go baby faces for the win here. Brian Myers versus Matt Cardona. I think it makes the most sense for Matt Cardona to get the win here, and I think this needs to be the end of the Myers versus Cardona rivalry. This rivalry has been a little bit confusing for me because they want to acknowledge that they're friends outside of AEW or of Impact and that they have their podcast and all that stuff, but then they also want to play it out on screen as if they hate each other. So that's a little bit weird for me, but I'm going to take Cardona for the win. Last man standing match, Trey Miguel versus Sami Callihan. I think that this match veers and favors Sami Callihan more, but I do know that Impact is pushing Trey Miguel. So booking-wise, it makes the most sense for Trey to win, but then it would be really weird if Sami Callihan doesn't win a last man standing match. I'm going to go with Sami Callihan here to take the win over Trey Miguel. Impact Knockouts Tag Team Championships, Tasha Steelz and Kiera Hogan defending against Jordynne Grace and a mystery tag team partner. No idea who this mystery tag team partner could be, to be honest. I haven't been following it closely enough to really know who that is. I missed the last episode of Impact, for instance. I need to go back and watch it. I think if we're doing the whole mystery partner trope, I'm going to take Jordynne Grace and her mystery partner. Put in the comments who you think Jordynne Grace's mystery partner is going to be. What I really hope for the Impact Knockouts tag team division is I hope that the former Iconics, Peyton Royce and Billy Kay, show up on Impact soon and join that division. That'd be fucking insane. X Division Championship, Ace Austin defending in a triple threat match versus Josh Alexander and TJP. This is another instance where booking-wise it could make sense for all three of these people to win. TJP is the former champion. Josh Alexander's been pushed like crazy lately in the X Division, but then Ace Austin hasn't been champion for very long. Ultimately, I'm going to go with that reasoning, and I'm going to say that Ace Austin, because he hasn't had the title for very long, Ace Austin is going to retain the championship in that triple threat. For the Impact Knockouts Championship, Deonna Perato versus Tanil Bashwood. This is the only one that's screaming at me in the back of my head to take into account the possible outside interference. I think there will be possible outside interference, and I think Tanil Bashwood will win the Knockouts Championship tonight. Impact World Tag Team Championship, I believe FinJuice will retain over the Good Brothers. Again, I just can't see a world where FinJuice just won those titles not too long ago, and then they're going to lose them immediately. However, because Kenny Omega is already on the card tonight, you do have to worry about the rest of the Elite coming out and helping the Good Brothers win. I think we could see FinJuice win and then see the rest of the Elite come out and beat the hell out of FinJuice. And then in the main event, and I'm going to stop the screen share because it's causing a lag on my show. In the main event, we have the match that everybody's talking about. We have Rich Swann, title versus Kenny Omega. As MLQ says here, Omega to be holding 3 world titles by the end of the night. Don Callis is going to be at ringside. We already know that the Good Brothers will be in the building. Possibly more. We could possibly see the rest of the Elite be in the building for this show. Ultimately, I'm taking Kenny Omega to win. And that's because this partnership, this door being open between Impact and AEW is the big brother. They get to go on Impact and make fun of Impact and have their world champion take up 20 minutes of their show on Impact and run advertisements for their show on Impact. Impact, they get to be mentioned once or twice on Dynamite. There is no way in blue hell that Rich Swann wins these championships. No way in blue hell. Ben, you read my freaking mind. Sort of. I think there will be a disqualification. I think Rich Swann will have Kenny Omega on the ropes. And I think in full Impact fashion, in classic TNA/Impact fashion, there's going to be an interference at the end of the match. I think the Elite, this is the only time during the show that I'm confident that the Elite will come out. They will beat the holy hell out of Rich Swann. Kenny Omega will then retain the championship. And then I think Jon Moxley will make an appearance on Impact. I think Jon Moxley will come out and help Rich Swann, and we'll build towards another big Impact versus AEW match down the line. I think Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston will come out and help Rich Swann. We might even see Willie Mack run down there. I know that in storyline, Rich and Willie are pretty good friends. So we might even see Willie Mack and come down and help out as well. Ryan Spitz says, and by the way, those are my full predictions for Impact Rebellion. Ryan says, I wish they would have more Impact stars invading AEW. I think so too. Again, Impact just looks like the nerdy little brother getting bullied. I described it this way to Heel Josh when I was on his podcast several weeks ago. I said, the AEW Impact storyline reminds me of if you had a big brother, your brother is 13 or 14 and you're 9 or 10, and your teenage brother's having a big sleepover downstairs with all his buddies, and they're talking about football and playing video games and eating junk food and shit. And you sneak out, you go downstairs, you sneak into the room, and you say, hey, little brother. And this is Impact talking to AEW. Impact, hey, AEW, can I come down? I promise I won't tell mom. Can I just hang out for a little bit? And then the big brother tells the little brother, yeah, little bro, you can hang out. And then the little bro's like serving them drinks and cleaning up their trash and getting picked on and hit with fucking pillows and shit. That's what this is. Impact is the nerdy little brother to AEW, and AEW just gets to pick on Impact. All right, guys, we have about 15 minutes left in the show. So this is where I am going to post the link for the broadcast room in chat, and you can join either on Facebook or on YouTube. If you want to be on the show for a couple of minutes, if you want to ask me a question live and have me answer your question live, and again, you'll only be on for just a minute or two because I'm going to leave time for anybody who wants to do it. If you're ready and you want to be on the show for a couple of minutes, go ahead and click that link, and I will bring you onto the show, and we'll see if anybody's interested in doing that. Anybody want to be on the show for a minute? You can ask me any question that you have about wrestling, anything at all. Link's right there. All you got to do is click on it. Or if you don't want to be on the show and you just want to ask me a question in chat, then do that. This is completely y'all's time. This is audience time to ask me any question that you want. Nobody? Okay. Well, in the meantime, Ryan Spitz says, I think Ace Austin versus Darby Allin would be a good match. I think that'd be an excellent match. In fact, that gives me the idea for the TikTok video. I just did the dream crossover card for AEW versus WWE. That's never going to happen, but what could happen is a dream crossover card for AEW and Impact. I need to book that. Did you watch the Briscoe brothers match? I found that awesome. Where are you talking about, James? Ben says, you're trying, but it won't let you. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Ben. I'm not sure what could be going on. You should just have to click the link or copy and paste it into your preferred search engine. And then you might have to set up like your camera and your mic and all that. MLQ says, when does Becky Lynch come back and who does she face? I think Becky Lynch jumps straight into the women's championship picture. I hope she comes to SmackDown, but I think it's more likely that she goes to Raw. There's a lot more matchups on SmackDown for Becky Lynch that she hasn't had yet. I would very much like to see Becky versus Bayley one-on-one. Becky versus Bianca Belair. I'd love to see that. But I think she's going to come back to Raw. No matter what, she's going to jump straight into the championship picture. So we might see Becky versus Rhea, Asuka, and or Charlotte, depending on how that storyline goes. All right, still no takers to be on the show. It was the 500th episode Battle of the Briscoes. I'll have to go check that out, James. I'm not super over familiar. It was on Ring of Honor. Okay. Not super familiar with the Briscoes' overall line of work. Oh, okay. Looks like we have a volunteer. Ben, I'm going to add you to the stream, buddy. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir. All right. What you got for me?
All right. Question is, do you believe that Edge could come back and interfere this Friday to build up for Bryan versus Edge at Backlash, with the winner meeting Roman at maybe what's after that, SummerSlam?
That's definitely possible. That's as likely as anything else, Ben, to be honest. It would probably be Money in the Bank, but I think it's more likely that we see Edge in the Money in the Bank match. I think Edge will find his way into the Money in the Bank match, and that's how he's going to secure his rematch with Roman Reigns. Because I think Edge is going to come back and tell Roman, I want a rematch, and Roman's going to say, no, you don't deserve one. And then Edge is going to get his way into the Money in the Bank and win it. I think is probably the most likely outcome. But I could definitely see a world where Edge comes in pissed off and cost Bryan the win next Friday. And not only that, but it would also be, the only problem with that is that's going to give Edge a lot of heat, because then Bryan would have to go away from SmackDown, and then you have heel versus heel, Edge and Roman, and I'm not sure how that dynamic works. So not a bad idea. I'm just not sure how the dynamics go, and I'm more confident that Edge would win the Money in the Bank.
All right.
Okay. You got anything else for me, Ben? Got anything else you want me to answer? Or are you the only one that's volunteered so far?
The only thing that I'm seeing is the only thing that I'm viewing is, like I said earlier, the Cesaro is barely at phase 1. I wouldn't be surprised if they have Cesaro win the Royal Rumble. He has so far to go because they're still building with the Seth storyline. That you saw Seth was in the tag this week that just passed, and all of that, and then he interfered the week before. I think they're gonna have one more good match, and then that'll be it. But with all the Bryan and everything, I don't see Cesaro getting anywhere until maybe Royal Rumble.
Yeah, I think we're also heading for a world where we might see Cesaro, Rollins, Big E, and Edge all be in the Money in the Bank match. And if that happens, I have no idea who's going to win. I have no idea who's going to win if we end up in that situation. So, all right, man, well, I got a couple questions coming in the chat. I'm going to go answer, but I appreciate you, sir.
All right, thank you.
No problem. All right, back to chat. Again, we still have about 8 minutes scheduled left. If anybody wants to be on the show, I'll put the link in chat one more time. Give you the opportunity to click it if you want. There we go. All right, couple questions have come up. Amanda says, when is the draft again? Well, the most recent draft happened, if you'll remember, right before Survivor Series. I believe it was in October. Again, I've seen a couple questions and videos on TikTok come up about, how would you do the superstar shakeup? I don't think we're going to see a superstar shakeup. I think I think the roster is set. I think the roster is set until we get to October, and then we're going to do another draft. So, yeah, I don't think we're doing a superstar shakeup. MLQ says it feels like the women's division has been handicapped. I don't think it's been handicapped, MLQ. I respectfully disagree. I think Asuka has done a great job of carrying the women's division. I think the Bayley-Sasha tag team and then versus storyline went a long way in supporting the company in Becky's absence. So, no, I think that we were in good hands after Becky left. Now, we miss Becky for sure. Amanda, you said who needs to go where? I'm assuming that you're referring to the draft again. I'd like to wait till closer to time and see how the booking unfolds before we talk about that. All right, Ryan Spitz says, if you have the pen and paper, who would you have AJ Styles and Kevin Owens fight in their last matches in either their retirement match or their last match before a contract expires? Each other. In all seriousness, I would love a loser leaves town match between Owens and Styles. I think that would be awesome. I think they'd be able, the ring psychology in that match would be off the fucking charts. AJ Styles versus Finn Balor and kind of a who's the true leader of the Bullet Club type situation. Kevin Owens, if he was leaving and if Kevin Owens was leaving and Sami Zayn was sticking around, I think Sami Zayn is the best choice for a Kevin Owens retirement match. So that would be my answer for those. Chris Hoover says, do you think Big E will get the Intercontinental Championship back, or is Apollo Crews in for a long run? I think Apollo Crews is in for a decent run. At least he better be, because his United States Championship run sucked. I think this one has a lot of potential to be better. And he also has Dabakato, or General whatever his name is. I don't have his name memorized yet. So they have an excuse to keep that championship ring going, because Apollo can weasel his way out of matches for a long time coming yet. So, all right, guys. Well, that's the last question that I have in chat. So I'll go ahead and just throw a couple of plugs in here. Make sure you guys know, as the ticker says at the bottom, every Sunday, 4 Eastern, 3 Central, Wrestling With My Thoughts goes live on Facebook and YouTube. If you haven't liked my Facebook page, go ahead and give me a like. If you have not subscribed on YouTube, please subscribe there as well. You can find the links to my Facebook and YouTube on TikTok at Infamous Opinionist, which is scrolling along the bottom there. Go give me a follow on TikTok for daily wrestling content. And then you'll find the links for my Facebook and YouTube there as well. Additionally, make sure you can check the other shows that come up on Raw Sports every single week. For instance, every Tuesday night at 8 p.m., we have the Dump and Chase show where they discuss the latest news and scores in hockey. We have the Fantasy Scene every Monday and Wednesday at 6 p.m. on the Raw Sports Network. And then, of course, Wrestling with My Thoughts every Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central. Guys, I really appreciate you being here for my show today. Thank you for your questions. Thank you, Ben, for coming on and hanging out with me for a little bit. I will see you guys tomorrow for a brand new video on TikTok. And I will see you next week right here on Wrestling with My Thoughts on the Raw Sports Network. Have a great week. Enjoy the wrestling. It's going to be a great one, guys.